What's up, everyone? Today's story is a wild ride. So, Willow's starting at a new school, and she's already getting confronted by Renee, who's got this thing against Greeks. But then there's Travis, who's all over Willow and causing her major distress. And here's the thing, Willow's not just some ordinary girl. She's the Luna of a werewolf pack, and her matriarch is the alpha. But wait, there's more drama. A rogue wolf shows up, and things get really intense. How does Willow balance her supernatural life with high school? Let's explore this fascinating tale together. Chapter 11. As the bell rang, signaling the start of first period, I found myself standing at the front of the classroom, clutching my pen, the backpack nervously. Riley had dropped me off just moments ago, his reassuring smile still fresh in my mind. The unnamed teacher, a welcoming presence, addressed the class with a warm smile. "This is Willow Smith. She's new here, so show her great hospitality. Willow, if you may please take the empty seat over there. We may be able to get on with class," the teacher said, gesturing to the only available desk. I nodded, my assertive nature momentarily overshadowed by first-day jitters, and made my way through the sea of curious faces. As I settled into my new desk, I took a deep breath, steeling myself for whatever challenges lay ahead. Well, school, I thought. Bring it on. No sooner had I unpacked my Know Your Voice cut through the classroom chatter. What the heck is a Greek doing in my class? I sighed, recognizing the confrontational tone. Hi, Renee. Renee. Her prejudice against Greeks evident in her scowl, marched to my desk and slammed her hands on the top. I asked a question, Greek. What are you doing in my classroom? Standing my ground, I calmly pulled out my schedule from my adorable pen bag and handed it to her, determined not to let her intimidate me. She snatched it from my hands, her eyes scanning the classes listed. Great, she murmured, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Now I gotta take care of a stupid Greek. Hey, I pouted, my assertiveness returning. I'm not stupid. She shrugged. Whatever. So why don't you come sit next to me instead of next to this doofus? The unnamed brunette guy sitting next to me grumbled at the insult, but Renee paid him no mind. Where do you sit? I asked, curiosity getting the better of me. She pointed to a desk with a black back on top. Next to her desk was another occupied by a blonde-haired guy, Travis. A shiver went up my spine as I recognized him, remembering our past encounters. I hate that guy. Yeah, I thought. Agreeing with the sentiment. Same here. I shook my head, standing firm in my decision. There's obviously someone sitting there. Before I could react, Renee's voice above the classroom chatter as she shouted at Travis, her confrontational nature on full display. Hey, you stupid piece of crap. Get out of that seat. It's for someone more important than you. Travis looked up from his phone and met my eyes. Then he began to smirk. Of course. Anything for that lovely lady. I shrunk down into my seat, but Renee just pulled me out of it, dragging me to where Travis was. Travis got up from the desk and slung the backpack onto his shoulders, but he didn't walk to my desk. No, he just waited for me to reach him. Hey, cutie, he said when we reached him. Renee cocked her eyebrow. You know each other. I nodded. Yeah, he sorta made Riley mad earlier. Her eyes widened. Riley, as in the new alpha. How do you know him? I gave her I'll tell you later look. Luckily, she got the hint and nodded. Then she turned back to Travis. So what are you doing making the alpha angry? He shrugged while smirking. All I did was talk to this cutie, he said while wrapping his arm around my waist. Immediately chills erupted from my body. My body began to shake ferociously as I burst into a cold sweat. This didn't feel right. Only Riley can hold me like this. Not Travis. Not any other guy. From the look on Renee's face, she knew something was wrong. She slapped Travis' hand away and began yelling at him. But I cowled and hear her. I could just see her mouth move. Willow, are you okay? Wow, he can sense that I'm freaking out. Why woodland tie? Don't lie to me. My body began to tremble. Then I crumpled to the ground. If Renee's yelling didn't get the students' attention before, then I had their attention now. They all got up from their seats and began to circle me, taking pictures with their phones. Riley. He touched me. He put his hand around me and now my body is freaking out. Wait. Who did? I could feel Riley's temper go up. He was already angry. Please, calm down first. Riley sighed. Fine. There. Now who touched you? Travis. Surprisingly, Riley didn't freak out. I could feel him restraining his wolf and anger. I can't come to you during the beginning of class, but I know who can. Riley ended the link, leaving me in a classroom with students surrounding me and Renee pushing Travis away from me, screaming at him. I felt alone, as if I was abandoned. Please, Riley, I thought. Hurry. A moment later, I heard the classroom door slam open. Immediately, students backed away and took hold. Icy hands wrapped around my shoulders. I looked up to see a smiling woman with stormy gray eyes. Miss Smith. Alpha Riley linked me and your teacher. I'm supposed to take you to my office. I'm the nurse, by the way, she whispered. I nodded and struggled to my feet. My body was still shaking ferociously and I was still in a cold sweat. The nurse began to lead me out the door until Renee spoke. Hey, you're not leaving me. I did help you know. The nurse laughed and glanced at Renee. Of course, Miss Shillings. Please come along. We walked through the door and down the halls. The nurse smiled as we walked and Renee held hers and my backpack that I seemed to have dropped when I fell to the ground. When we entered a room that looked like it was the nurse's office, it had those medical beds and stuff like that. The nurse gestured me and Renee to sit down on some chairs. I sat down and Renee sat across from me. So Riley sent you for me? I asked, breaking the silence. The nurse looked at me with a kind smile on her face. Of course, Willow. He cares about you dearly. Don't you know that? I blushed. Why, yes, I so. Renee cocked her eyebrow at me, and I shook my head in response. By the way, the nurse said, in aviary waters. She outstretched her hand and I took it hesitantly. Her cold fingers sent a tingle down my spine. Something's weird about this lady, docent she looked strange. I nodded in response. I see Alia was right. Aviary was peculiar. She looked around my age, around 17 and 18. Her hair was slick black, and her eyes were stormy gray, like literally stormy. It looked like clouds slowly moving, and sometimes it looked like lightning flashed across her irises. No, Willow, Aviary said, still smiling. I'm not the peculiar one. More like you. Do you even know what you're capable of? I flinched. Did she just read my mind? How is that even possible? Aviary began digging through a cabinet until she pulled out a flask with glowing orange liquid. She held it out to me. Here, this will make the chilling feels calm down. She handed it to me and I held the strange liquid in front of my face. It looks like a potion. Aviary laughed. That's because it is. My eyes widened. Willow, Renee whispered. She's a witch. The pack witch. A witch. In a pack, why? I nodded, ignoring my thoughts, and quickly drank the potion. Immediately the chills vanished. How did you know what to give me? Aviary laughed and sat next to Renee, right across from me. Because I'm witch. You were just yearning for your mate's touch. Yes, I know. You felt his touch this morning. But honestly, I think it has something to do with your gift. Gift. Whoa, witch, whoa. Renee said while gesturing with her hands. Her mate. She just got here. How did she find her mate already? Well, Renee, Shillings. Aviary said while facing Renee. I'll go ahead and answer that for you. You see. Well, just answer my question. What do you see when you look at Willow? Renee looked at me with furrowed eyebrows. I see a Greek. Aviary laughed. Yes. Your usual answer. Well, you want to know what I see? I see the whole pack's new Luna. Renee looked at me with widened eyes. Why, you're the new Luna? I nodded. Why, yeah. Surprise. I don't think Riley wanted me telling anyone yet, though. Renee nodded. That means, well, I'll witch. Well, have you already established a link with Riley? I nodded. Then that means, she continued, that you already have a link with the whole pack. You're one of us now. Aviary clapped her hands. Ah, bravo. You are very intelligent, Renee. Yes, she's your Luna and is in link with everyone already. But she still has secrets of her own that she must unlock. She is the key for this pack, and the treasure dwells within her. Am a key. I have a treasure in me. Ah, the witch continued. I see I have confused you to quite a lot. I must apologize with a gift. Yes, a gift. She flicked her hand and the school bell rang. There, your first period is over. Now you'd better get to class. A lot is in store for today. Renee and I rose from our seats and made our way to the door that led to the hallway. Oh, and Willow, welcome to high school. Aviary called. Wow, you're the Luna. Renee whispered as we made our way through the crowds of students in the hallway. Yeah, I couldn't believe it at first too. Renee sighed as she pushed some guy to the ground trying to get through the crowd. Renee. She looked at me and cocked her eyebrow. Yeah. You just... Never mind. She shrugged and we continued to walk through the hallway. That was until something slammed me against a locker. A yelp escaped my lips as I cringed in pain. Hey cutie, are you trying to avoid me? Travis. I skimmed past his head for Renee and found her behind the crowd of people gathering around. Renee. I whimpered. Help. She tried to push through but failed. I can't get through. Besides, I don't help Greeks. I sighed and struggled to get out of Travis' grip, but that just made him hold on tighter. Hey, what's the rush? I just want to talk. Without Riley interrupting, I tried to shove him off again, but failed miserably. Leave me alone. Just stop. By WW, Travis said slowly. You're so cute when you're mad. It makes you. He was ripped off of me and slammed onto the lockers this time. Then a growl erupted through the halls. Don't touch her again, Travis. It'll rip you to shreds. Students backed away and Kyle walked beside Riley, narrowing his eyes at Travis. Just listen to your alpha, Travis. You don't want to see his wolf, do you? Travis sighed. I can talk and touch any girl I please. Just like Willow. That set Riley off. He quickly punched Travis in the gut while growls erupted from his chest. Then Riley tackled him onto the floor. Both men began to wrestle as Kyle to pull Riley off of Travis. That was my chance. I turned and was about to walk away, but someone's hand wrapped around my ankle and pulled me onto the ground. I landed flat on my chest and looked at the boys. Travis was holding on to me while Riley kept landing a punch on his chest. Where do you think you're going, cutie? Travis grunted while smirking. It would have looked like he was a bad boy if he didn't look so beat up. I struggled to get out of his grip but failed. Then I heard squealing from the end of the hall. I looked up to see a happy Alyssa bounding toward us. Oh my gosh, Willow. I just heard we share a class together and she stopped and fell silent as she took in the scene. A crowd of students. Me lying on the floor. Travis' hand wrapped around my ankle. Riley in mid-punch on Travis' chest. Kyle trying to pull Riley off of Travis. And Renee on the sidelines. Then, anger flashed across her face. Travis. Leave Willow alone. She charged with her hand raised. Prepare to punch someone. Alyssa. No, stop. Kyle shouted as Alyssa charged. He jumped in front of her and held out his hands, ready to catch her. He failed miserably. Instead of catching her, his face made contact with her fist. That's right. She punched him. The contact made a noise so horrible. It made me cringe. The sound echoed through the halls, grabbing every onus attention. Silence. Everyone stared at Kyle and Alyssa. but they weren't paying attention to them. No, their eyes were locked to each other. Alyssa stammered. Before anyone knew it, Kyle grabbed hold of Alyssa and threw her over his shoulder. Then he bolted out the hallway. Him and Alyssa were gone. What? What just happened? A noise that sounded painful soon echoed, and Travis' grip released my ankle. I looked back at the two boys fighting and saw Travis lying unconscious and Riley standing, looking down at him with disgust. That's just a sample of what's to come, he mumbled. Ding, 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 and Travis is down for the counting. All right, everybody. Clear the halls, Renee shouted. Just like that, all the students went back to their normal schedule, roaming the halls. Renee then came over to me and helped me up, but I was sort of in a daze. Riley? I could tell he was holding back so much strength in that fight. He was just, wow. Riley, Ali? I whimpered. He looked up to me and gave me an apologetic look. Then he walked up to me and embraced me in a hug. I'm so sorry, Willow. I'm sorry I called and help you in first period, and I'm sorry I was much help now. I pulled away. What are you talking about? You helped me in so many ways. He gave a toothy grin, but it soon faded when an alarm went off. A fire drill. The warning alarm, Riley said, as if reading my mind. A moment later, students began running down the halls and out the exit. Some in wolf form. Riley, what's going on? He held me tight and began leading me out the school exit. Rouges. He finally answered. A rouge is on territory as we speak. Chapter 12. More students began to shift when they reached the parking lot of the school. And it was scary. There were brown, gray, and white wolves everywhere. When they finished shifting, they de-sniffed the air and all run in the same direction. Riley? They all just darted away. I stuttered. Riley nodded and pulled me by the hand towards his car. Why we were going to the car? I don't know. They sniffed out the intruder. Or intruders. We don't know if there's a pack of them or not. He answered. When we reached his car, he quickly unlocked it and put me into the passenger seat. Then he buckled me up and looked me in the eyes. Willow, listen to me. I don't want you leaving this car. You will stay put. He was commanding me. He was commanding me to stay in a car while he went to go hunt down rouges. But Riley, do you really think the car is the safest place? For all you know, one could come here and... He held up his hand to silence me. Do as I say, Willow. If you got hurt, just stay put. Promise me that you will. I promise. But Riley, I was about to counter his argument. But he stepped away from the car, shut the door, then locked it. I looked at him with pleading eyes through the window, but he just shrugged me off. Instead, he did something I didn't expect to see. He shifted. His form began to deform and grow hair. Then he grew to a massive size, bigger than the car I sat in. He was literally the biggest wolf I had ever seen. His furry coat was slick black with a patch of white hair on his forehead. His eyes were a glistening silver that somehow showed power. My eyes widened. He was magnificent. He was beautiful. He took a step from the car, then released a ferocious howl. It echoed through the school grounds, most likely heard throughout the whole town. Then he darted, away from the school, and away from me. I pressed my hand against the window. Riley, it's for the best. I see Thalia said. It's his duty. H is protecting us in his town. It's what an alpha has to do. I shook my head, but I have a feeling I should go with him. I see Alia grunted. Well, you're wrong, Willow. We must listen to our mate. But I whimpered. Remember the feeling I had in our village, when I felt those rouges in the forest. But I didn't trust it. Our pack died because of me, because I didn't tell anyone about my feeling. Maybe we should start listening to it now, so no one else dies. I didn't realize I was crying until I felt tears hit my hand that was in my lap. But you're Luna. Alia stated. Lunas don't fight. Our Luna died fighting rouges. She died to protect her pack. I snapped. My wolf sighed. Willow, no. I screamed while unbuckling my seatbelt. I'm going to go help. I'm not going to run away again. I was going to try to stop you. You're right. We should be with our mate. I gave a small smile as tears continued to spill freely. Then I unlocked the car, opened the door, and hopped out. Are you ready? I nodded as I slipped my backpack, shoes, and dress off and tossed them into the car. No one was here, and I didn't want to rip my new things then I was left in a sports bra and undergarment shorts. Of course, I finally answered. I began to focus. I haven't done this in a while. I don't even remember what it felt like. Was it painful? Was it just like a sharp pain? Like a cramp? Or was it just easygoing? A walk in the park. I shook my head and began the process. I was shifting. My bones popped and cracked, making a painful whimper escape my lips. I grew a snout and patches of fur erupted from my body. When I finished, I looked at my reflection in Riley's car. Even through the black shine of the car, I could see my electric blue eyes. And my fur, white with patches of black. I shook my hairy head. I can't focus on my reflection. I have to help Riley. I lifted my head and betake in various scents. I was looking for the Rouge's scent. I was looking for Riley's. I knew his would be strongest to me. A moment later, Riley's smell hit my nose. It was captivating, threatening to put me in a trance. I shook my head and followed the scent, running as fast as I could. I ran through the abandoned streets and past empty cars, but I was running faster than I had ever in my entire life. I was gaining speed, and I was gaining it fast. Soon the growls of 1,000 wolves hit my ears. My pack. I followed the sound and ended up in a soccer field. The pack stood there, snarling and forming a large circle. I could barely see past the wolves, but I caught a tiny glimpse of Riley's wolf in the middle of the circle. Riley, I thought. We've got to push past the pack to get to Riley. I see Cialia stated. I nodded in response and ran to the pack. Then I began to push through. Most of the wolves ignored me, but some made cautious growls. But I just kept pushing until I was in the middle. Riley stood there, snarling and growling at a scrawny, light brown wolf. Both of them took no notice to me. The brown wolf whimpered while its body shook ferociously. It was scared. If I Cialia could gasp in my head. She did. Willow, she said so quietly I could barely hear her. Doesn't that wolf look familiar? I looked closely at the brown wolf. It had green eyes that pleaded for help. Its light brown coat had one patch of dark brown hair on its side. That wolf was more than familiar. I knew exactly who it was. Riley barked and stomped his enormous black paw at the wolf, making it jump back with fear. I had to stop this now. I quickly linked Riley. Stop. I screamed in our link. He stopped what he was doing and confusion swept over him. Vampire Deception by Drake Mason and Eli Dweck. As an undocumented changeling, I'm forced to pose as a low-level witch. I nodded, even though he didn't see me. Of course it's me. Now please, leave that wolf alone. I could sense his breath hitch. You didn't stay in the car. Where are you? To your right. I whimpered. His head shot towards me. His silver eyes showed confusion, hurt, and maybe a tiny bit of betrayal. Why didn't you stay in the car? I whimpered. I cowed. I felt like I was needed here. And I am. And I see why now. He cocked his head. Why are you needed here? I shook my head. I'll explain. But first, step away from the wolf, and let me talk to it. He yelped at me no. Rouges are dangerous. It could hurt you. Just trust me. Please. His eyes showed that he wanted to argue, but he backed away from the wolf. Riley backing away made the pack's growls go silent as confusion swept over them. But then their thoughts popped into my head, which was a first. I guess it was something Luna could do. Why is the alpha listening to her? So now he listens to anybody. Is that his? No, it couldn't be. I ignored their links and began to walk slowly to the scrawny wolf. The wolf whimpered as its body shook ferociously. It looked at me with pleading eyes, as if begging for my mercy. Okay, I thought as I took a deep breath. I can do this. I sent it a link. Paige. The wolf shaking ceased and its whimpers died down, but its green eyes widened with fear. How do you know my name? She asked, fear evident in her voice. Because I know you. I took a step forward, but she took a cautious step back. And no one knows me. In a rouge. Everyone I knew is dead. I even tried to save my friend, but she died. I shook my fuzzy head. Look. It's obvious you're scared, tired, hungry, and exhausted. How about you transform back into a human? I'll take care of you and make sure none of these big, bad wolves hurt you. She whimpered. Why do you want to help me? In a rouge. I could kill you any second. A rumbling came from my chest. It was a growl, more like laughter, if that was even possible. That's why. You don't want me to trust you. That's my indication of why I do. So just shift back, please. She was hesitant, but then she nodded. Her bones began to shift and pop. Her snout shrunk into a nose, and her hair turned back into skin. But the sight of her made tears prick my eyes. She was just skin and bones. It looked like she hasn't eaten in years. Her long brown hair was mostly split ends, and her hazel eyes with a green tint had dark circles underneath. But what threw me off the most was that she was wearing the same exact dress for some reason it didn't rip like mine did when I shifted from the festival, the day we were attacked. Except it was stained, tattered, wrinkled, and ripped. She stared at me, waiting for what I would do. So I did the only thing I could think of. I shifted. The process was as painful, but it hurt so much that I released a silent whimper. When I was back to human, I was surprised to see that my sports bra and undergarment shorts wearing ripped. And to think that's why I took my dress off. I looked at my long-lost friend Paige and saw that the color from her face had drained. Willow. She crumbled to the ground and tears began to spill from her eyes. Why, you died. I went back to where I left you. You weren't there. I thought they killed you. I quickly ran to her and dropped to my knees, embracing her in a hug and rubbing her back to comfort her. I went back to the village. I've lived there for 3 years and I just got here. Her crying began to make her breathing stutter. I was so afraid to go back. I thought they were still there. Tears began to fall from my eyes. I'm so sorry, Paige. She hugged me, holding me tight like I would disappear from her life again. I'm not going anywhere. I cooed. The hands grasped my shoulders and I looked up to see Riley giving me an apologetic look. Then I looked around and saw that the whole pack had shifted back still in their clothes because they didn't rip. I looked back up at Riley and smiled, but it soon faded when a masculine voice spoke up. So the new girl is a rouge. The pack broke out into whispers until Riley spoke up. No, she's not. She was a survivor of a rouge attack. I brought her here so that she wouldn't be alone anymore. Someone else decided to speak up. So wait, are we taking that rouge in now? I stood up and turned to the pack. She's not a rouge. She survived with me, but we got separated. The pack began to murmur. Silence. You will treat these two with respect, Riley shouted, using his alpha voice. That was the first time I heard it, and it scared me. The whole pack quieted down, and Paige stood up, clinging to my arm. I don't think they'll ever accept me as their own, she whispered. They will. Trust me. Wait, I've got an idea. I mustered up all my courage I had and stepped forward. Look, a witch, look. I know we weren't born onto your pack, but we know how to be civilized. We will learn and obey your rules. I promise that. How are you civilized if you're standing in a bra and underwear? A girl shouted. A blush crept up my neck and I immediately stepped back. A moment later, Alyssa emerged from the pack and ran to me with a jacket and with Kyle trailing her like a puppy dog. When she reached me, she draped the jacket over my shoulders and winked. I cowed and helped but smile. She is civilized, and you will treat her with as much respect you treat me, because, Riley said, then looked at me. That's when I realized it. He was going to tell the secret of who I was to him. He smiled, then looked back at the pack, because she's my mate. Willow Smith is your new Luna. Chapter 13. All eyes were on me. Thousands of eyes, just staring at me like I was an alien. And none of the eyes showed acceptance. They all showed disapproval. I felt like my world was shrinking, soon to become nothing. Just a small speck floating around in a universe. I was nothing to these people. I was nothing to my mates back. I was just a small speck to them. Would Riley deny me because of this? Would he just kick me out like I was morning trash? Thoughts kept running through my head. I had to just let it go. Forget that they didn't accept me. Willow, Paige whispered as her bony fingers dug into my forearms. Are you okay? I nodded and gave her a relieving smile. Of course. I lied. The jacket on my shoulders seemed to have felt heavier, as if the weight of the world was resting on me. My world was resting on me. This pack would soon have to depend on me. After they accepted me, Riley came to me and grabbed me by my hand. Immediately shocks engulfed my arm, but weren't as sensational as usual. Then he pulled me closer to the pack, as if presenting me as a gift. This is your Luna. You must accept, he said while releasing my hand. Their eyes continued to stare, making me feel more like an experiment that was getting observed. Tears threatened to fall from my eyes. This isn't how I imagined it would go. But then, a familiar pack member bowed their head. Luna, Renee said loudly as she bowed her head. Soon her example was followed by more members. Then the whole pack. They were all bowing their heads to me. Luna, they said in unison. My eyes widened. I looked back at Alyssa, Kyle, and Paige was surprised to see them doing the same. Riley? They don't have to. I looked at Riley and smiled. He was bowing to me too. The hurt that I was feeling earlier was replaced by happiness. I was accepted by the pack and my mate. I couldn't help but giggle, but then the giggling turned to laughter, causing the pack to lift their heads. Willow, what's so funny? Riley asked while cocking his eyebrow. It's just that, you're all going to a half without clothes, girl, I said while clutching my stomach from all the laughter. Riley soon joined and brought me into a hug. Gosh, Willow, you're so adorable. I continued to laugh as I hugged him back, but our fits of laughter was interrupted by a familiar voice. Wow, I've seen Willow half without clothes at all. But what do we do now? Home, or school? Travis asked. Riley pushed me behind him before releasing a growl. Shut up, Travis. Travis held up his hands up. Okay. Jeez. I was just wondering. Riley took a breath before answering. You guys can just go home. I doubt the teachers were going to go back to school anyways. I'm talking about you misses. Buck hard. A moment later, an elderly woman giggled in the crowd. Then she jumped into the sea of people. Weird. The pack began to cheer. Then they began to disperse, leaving me, Riley as a lich, Riley, Alyssa, Kyle, and Paige. I guess Renee decided to leave. I think they don't fully accept me, Riley. Riley reached and held my hand. Oh, trust me. They do. The thoughts I'm hearing right now. They wanted to talk more. But Yuri? Devil witch. Practically without clothes, hey. It's not my fault. Last time I shifted my clothes ripped. Riley laughed. And when was the last time? 3 years ago. Riley froze and looked at me. 3 years ago. Yeah. I haven't shifted since my pack was killed. He looked lost in thought, but he finally answered. There's something wrong with your wolf. No offense, but if somebody doesn't shift that long, their wolf tends to fight for control, and they usually win and become a rouge. I let it sink in. I was supposed to be crazy, gone wild, but for some reason, I see Cialia and ever fought for control. I see Cialia. I thought. What's going on? No answer. I shook my head and turned to my friends, but I was surprised to see Kyle and Alyssa holding hands. Do you think they're mates? I whispered to Riley. Riley laughed. Of course not. Alyssa hates Kyle. Jess never touched him in his life except when she punched him in the hallway this morning. There was a moment, but Riley's eyes widened. No way, he said before darting to Kyle and tackling him. I quickly ran and caught up with him. Bro, you're e-mates with Alyssa. I looked at Alyssa and caught her blushing. I couldn't help but giggle. Yeah. Kyle replied, looking a bit embarrassed. Why didn't you tell me? Holy freaking crap. The two began to wrestle while me and Alyssa laughed. Willow, Paige croaked. I turned to see Paige struggling to stand. It was like something was trying to pull her down into the earth. But then the worst thing happened. She passed out. Riley, I screeched. He looked up and his eyes widened. He immediately jumped from the ground and swooped Paige into his arms. Wow, she's lighter than a feather. She needs to get dehydrated. Food. And sleep. I nodded. Then that means we should get home. He nodded and began to walk. I caught up to him and fell into his pace. That was until Alyssa spoke. Oh, I know you guys aren't leaving us. Riley laughed and dug into his pocket while holding Paige. Then he pulled out his car keys and tossed them to Kyle. Ride my car home. Then you guys can hang out with us. They nodded simultaneously and began to run to the school at inhuman speed. All right. Let's get home and take care of your friend. I nodded and we both began to walk quickly to Riley's house. Chapter 14 Mixed POV Willow Smith. She was all I could think about. The way her blonde hair blew in the wind. The way her blue eyes always showed kindness. The way she talked. The way how she acted so real. She was just captivating. That's why I loved her. But how can I love her if I already found my mate? How is it even possible? For some reason, I couldn't see myself with Sophia. She's my mate. But I have to admit, she's cruel. We have our own pack of rouges, but she just treats them like trash. Real Luna would never do that. That's why it feels like we're drifting apart. But Willow, I can see myself with her. I can see us raising our own pups and teaching them how to shift for the first time. If she was my mate, that would be perfect. But I think she still hates me. After that night, who wouldn't? I killed everyone. Even my best friend. I thought I killed Willow too. My heart just felt broken. But when I saw that she was still alive, joy overwhelmed me. I shook my head. I shouldn't be thinking about this. Sophie is my mate and I love her. But why does Willow keep popping up in my head? Hey babe, I whispered. A moment passed until Thea finally answered. Yeah, she mumbled from underneath the bed sheets. I smiled. Her morning voice was so cute. She almost sounds like Willow now. I can't think about her. I'm going to go for a jog. If that's alright. Yeah, but when you get back I have some loose ends I want you to take care of. I nodded. Of course. I got out of bed and slipped on a sweatshirt, sweatpants, socks, and some 10i shoes. Then I crept out of our room and out the front door of our small shack. It was morning for sure. The sun had barely risen and the wolves were sleeping by some forest trees. I wonder which ones Sophia wanted me to take care of. I shook my head and jogged into the woods. I began to pick up speed and the trees soon became blurs as I ran. I only had one thing on my mind. Willow. I kept running until I was right in front of Willow's wall. The wall she made around her burnt-down village. I remember watching her build it. She wouldn't take a break until it was finished. And sometimes, I could tell when she had her feelings, when she would feel that I was watching her from the trees. But she would just ignore it. I stepped inside the wall for the first time and was amazed at what I saw. There were flowers growing everywhere. There was a partially burned house, but it looked well taken care of. And down a path from it were graves. A lot of graves, most likely the bodies of her pack. But something caught my eye. There was a large circle of dead grass. I knew exactly what that was 3 years ago. It was the bonfire Willow, and I had danced around. That was the first time I realized I actually loved her instead of my mate. But I denied those feelings then. "Willow?" I called. No answer. I walked to the burnt house and entered. It was cleaned up and well decorated inside. So this is where she lived. "Willow?" I called again. Still no answer. I began to panic. Where could she have gone? This was where she was meant to be. In a house near me. If she left. No, I can't jump to conclusions. I began to search frantically. I ran around, searched every room, and tore things apart. She wasn't here. My wolf began to grow restless. He even cared more for her than Sophia. Where could she have gone? Damien demanded. I don't know. Damien was silent, as if he was concentrating. Then he took control. I could see what was going on, but I cowed and controlled it. It was like I was in a daze. Damien didn't shift, but instead he began running. He zoomed past trees and ran down hills. That was, until he reached the edge of the forest where a town lied. He released control and allowed me to take over. "Damien," I hissed. "What was that all about?" "Willow's scent came from here. Look around." I nodded. "Willow?" "She was somewhere around here." I began walking along the border, just on the edges of the town, and it was huge. But the weird thing was, the streets were abandoned. "Nick, this is a pack territory." I froze. Why would Willow be with a pack? Did someone take her in? No, I can't think like that. I continued to walk until a soccer field came into view. A group of teen kids were walking away, leaving a small group behind. But these weren't normal kids. They were all wolves. I stared at the group of kids left behind. A scrawny girl that looked partially familiar. A girl in a t-shirt and jeans holding hands with some guy. And in front of them with their backs turned to me was a blonde girl that seemed to only be wearing a jacket. She was holding hands with a tall, muscular guy. Must be mates. They turned their heads to each other and seemed to be talking. But a moment later the guy turned and darted away from the girl and tackled the other guy. Then the blonde girl ran after him. That's when my heart skipped a beat. I recognized that hair, that face, and those eyes. It was Willow. My Willow. But she was half without clothes and wearing a jacket. She stopped next to the girl who was recently holding hands with the other guy. Then they began to laugh as the two men began to wrestle. But then she looked at the scrawny girl. A tiny, little thing was struggling to stand. But then she collapsed, causing Willow to screech so loud that I could even hear it. Riley, the man that she was holding hands with, responded by jumping from the ground and swooping the bony girl into his arms. He said something to Willow and they began to walk away. He was walking away with my Willow. A small growl erupted from my chest. At first I thought they heard me because they turned towards me, but they just began to talk to the other couple. The guy, who I'm guessing was Riley, dug through his pocket and tossed the other guy some keys. The couple dashed away while Riley and Willow walked side by side. Away from me. Anger filled me. He was taking Willow away from me. I ran back into the woods and began to run at top speed. Then I stopped and punched a tree as hard as I could while releasing a painful scream. He was going to take her away. I wouldn't allow him to. That's when the idea came to me. "Damien," I muttered. "Beat me up." I could feel my wolf snicker. With pleasure. Damien took control once again and ran at top speed. But he was dodging anything. He kept crashing into trees, bushes, and thorns. I could feel pain engulf my body. Perfect. He released his control and I dropped to the ground, panting. I looked at my ripped clothing and now their arms that were seeping with red water. I looked like I was just attacked by someone or something. I smiled and got back to my feet. Then I began to dash back to my pack. I dashed through the trees and jumped over one of the sleeping wolves, making it yelp and scatter. All of my pack awake and stared at me in confusion. Then they shifted back to human and circled me, asking questions. What happened? Is he all right? You don't think he was attacked, do you? "All right, men," I shouted. Everyone froze and gave me their full, undivided attention. Even Sophia came out of our shack, wearing only a T-shirt and a pair of shorts while she rubbed her sleepy eyes. I was attacked by a nearby pack. I lied easily. Everyone broke into murmurs. "Well then, let's kill them like we did to that other pack 3 years ago," someone shouted. The pack nodded and murmured with agreement, but I raised my hand to silence them. "I have a better idea," I stated. I glanced at Sophia and saw her smirking evil. Why? Did she know what I was up to? I shook my head and continued. "We convinced丨Lunar to leave." The pack of rouges cocked their heads. "What's the point of that?" a female voice asked. I smirked. "Because an alpha can't live long without his Luna. He'd kill himself. And the pack would go into chaos. They'll all kill each other for the throne." The pack smiled wickedly and nodded with agreement. Then they began to cheer. While they were cheering, one of the females ran up with a wet rag and began to tend to my wounds. But I didn't pay attention. My thoughts were elsewhere. My thoughts were of Willow. "They'll get you back, Willow. We'll be happy together in your village. You will be mine." Chapter 15. Willow's POV. Paige lied limp in my bed. Her breathing was faint and she hardly stirred in her sleep. But I was happy. I was happy that she was in poor condition, but that she was alive. She kept her promise all along, that she would find me. I sat on the side of my bed, watching Paige. I didn't want to look away because I was afraid she'd disappear from my life again. She was my only friend that survived the attack. Two hands placed themselves on my shoulders. "Aviary is here," Riley whispered. I nodded. We called Aviary so that she could help Paige. I was afraid that if we tended to Paige ourselves, we'd do something wrong and harm her. Maybe a witch could do something better. I turned to Riley and gave a hopeful smile. Then I looked out the open door to the hallway and saw a smiling Aviary. I smiled back and nodded. She took that as a sign and walked in, making her way until she was right next to Paige's sleeping form. She smiled and looked at me and Riley. "Oh yeah, I can fix her up with a simple potion, but I'll need one thing." I stood up quickly, hope filling my body. What is it?" "I can go get it." Aviary laughed. "You'll need an angelic herb." I cocked my eyebrow. "Angelic herb?" She nodded. "Oh yes, it's actually a flower found in the forest around the town. When it's mixed properly, it can be used as a strengthening tonic," she said happily. I nodded and turned to leave. "Okay, you'll be right back." Before I could exit my bedroom door, Riley quickly grasped my arm. "Wait, we can have one of our gatherers find the flower. You should stay here, where it's safe." I gave him a reassuring smile and easily slipped my arm from his grasp. "It's fine, Riley. I've been gathering for the past 3 years. It'll be fine. And what would I be safe from? Bunnies." He looked like he wanted to argue, but he let it go and allowed me to leave. I gave a thankful smile before running out of my bedroom. I ran through the hallway, down the stairs, and out the front door, greeted by the morning sunlight. I saw some pack members walking up and down the street, but seeing them though made me think of the previous event I was in, when I was only in my undergarments and a jacket. I shook my head. It wouldn't happen again because once Riley, Paige, and I arrived home, I quickly threw on a white day dress with some white flats. I was in a white mood. I ran into the street and began to run towards the forest. Surrounding pack members noticed me and bowed their heads. I waved to some, but was in a hurry, so I began to pick up speed. The members soon became blurs as I passed by. I know I have never ran this fast before. I was running faster than the time I was chasing down Riley to stop him from hurting Paige. So faster than an hour ago. I stopped running when I entered the forest. The forest was a lot more beautiful than when I was arriving to the pack through it. It seemed more at peace. I began to walk, using my instincts to find the right flower for Paige. I didn't know how to find it, but I felt like I was close, if that makes any sense. "Willow, Willow," I see Celia whispered in my head. I nearly jumped when she spoke. She had been ignoring me ever since we found Paige. And all of a sudden she decides to speak. Talk about being rude. I see Celia. I hissed. Why have you been ignoring me? You didn't feel it. Did you? You were too distracted. She stated quietly. What? Feel what? I could feel Celia's eye. I felt like we were being watched. Well, of course, she felt like that. We were being watched. By the whole pack. Hate to break it to you, Celia. I started. But we were being watched. By the whole pack. Celia grumbled in my head. That's not what I meant. We were being watched by someone who doesn't belong to this pack. I sighed while I continued to search for the flower. And who would that be? I don't know why. But it felt like Celia didn't get to finish her sentence. Why? Because I was paying attention to where I was going. As usual. Instead of tripping on a log and rolling down a hill, I caught my foot in a tree root that was sticking out of the ground. Then I stumbled and caught my balance. But doing so made me cut my ankle on a nearby thorn bush and earning a little red water to seep out. I have the most amazing luck. Son of a poop. I screeched. Well, at least it didn't tear my dress. Celia sighed but then went silent. Celia. Don't ignore me again. I wind. No, I'm not. But do you hear that? I went quiet and listened for a bit, but nothing made a sound. Celia. There's not. That's when I heard it. A type of whining sound. It sounded painful, like whatever was making the sound was being ripped apart. I began to walk towards the sound. What are you doing? Celia hissed. Never walk towards a strange sound. This is probably why Riley didn't want us coming at ourselves. I shook my head and continued to walk. The sound got louder as I pushed through some bushes. Then a small clearing opened up. And that's when I saw it. An injured doe lying on the ground. Its legs were sliced, causing red water to seep through its wounds. And there was a huge claw arc across its side as if a wolf had attacked it. It took one look at me, then its big black eyes filled with fear. It began to do its painful whimper while it tried to stand, but it failed miserably. To be honest, it looked like it was struggling just to hold on to its life. No, don't struggle. I whispered. It'll just make it worse. It ignored me and continued to squirm. What was I supposed to do? Let it die and walk away? Or try to help it as best as I could? I shook my head and slowly approached it, holding out one hand while keeping my eyes on the ground. It seemed to have calmed down its whimpering, but it still thrashed around as I was basically towering over it. It's gonna be okay. I cooed. It'll help you. You sure are something. Celia stated. I ignored her while I looked at the doe. It stopped squirming and looked at me with pleading eyes, as if trying to talk to me. I could imagine it saying something like, "It hurts so bad. Please help me." I looked around, searching for a plant. Maybe an angelic herb could help it. I was searching for one after all. Maybe I could get another. Or maybe I wouldn't have such luck. That's what I felt it. A slimy thing on my ankle. I looked down and jumped back with shock. The doe was licking my cut I had gotten from the thorns. I looked down at my ankle and stared at amazement. There was no cut. It was as if it had vanished. Then I looked back at the doe and nearly yelped out of fear and utter disbelief. Its wounds were healing. Right in front of me. The injuries were closing up at an amazing speed that a leopard would be jealous. Its scratch on its side was fully healed, as well as its injured legs. Then it stood up, shaking out its short hair. It looked at me with thanks in its eyes. Then it nodded and strolled off. What happened? Was that deer a wizard thing? I shook my head at the insane idea. Impossible. Then again, humans think it's impossible for werewolves to exist. Well, that was impressive. I tensed. That voice. I know it. I know who it belongs to. It belongs to the boy who caused everyone that was precious to me be killed 3 years ago. It belonged to the boy that played with my feelings. It belonged to the boy who I actually cared for once. I turned around slowly and met with his still beautiful hazel eyes. Nick. I whimpered. What are you doing here? He was a couple feet away from me, smiling as if we were best friends. If I had never known what he was like, I would have mistaken him for a kind, loving boy. And that's when I noticed what he was wearing. It sent fear into my body. He was wearing the same clothes he did the night he killed my family. A dark dress shirt with a tie, dark dress pants, and dress shoes. I've come for you, he said while closing the space between us until he was towering over me. That outfit is beautiful. By the way, it looks like you're getting married. I was too scared to move. My body was shaking ferociously. He probably came back to kill me, to kill off the sole survivor of a dead pack, other than Paige. Why, you're a killer. I stuttered. You'd only come for me to kill me. Nick laughed and traced his hand down my cheek, causing me to shudder with disgust. Why would I kill you? Willow. I came back because I love you. My heart stopped. He loved. He thought he had the right to say he loves me after everything he did so far. That's when the memories of that morning came back to me. The morning when I went back to my burned-down pack. He sighed and started to rub the back of his neck. You know, if I would have just forgotten about my mate when I rejected her, this would have never happened. And I would have fallen in love with you. I shook my head from that memory. He was controlled by his mate, but I still couldn't trust him. You don't love me, I said with false confidence. If you did, you would leave me alone. Nick's smile disappeared and a frown took its place. Willow, witch. I can't forget about you. It's like you're my mate. All I do is think and think, and you're the one that pops in my head. I can see us together happily. I can see us raising pups. I see myself with you. I took a step back. Stop it. You killed my family for your mate, and now you say you want me. Stop kidding yourself. And besides, I wouldn't go with you anyways. I found my own mate. Nick scowled. Yes, and HES the Alpha and you're the new Luna. My body went cold. How did he know that? Has he been watching me the whole time? Was I just something he observed? I staggered backwards. How do you know that? He shook his head and held out his hand. It doesn't matter. But what does matter is that you come with me. I stared at his hand, as if it was an alien. How could he offer me his hand? Did he really think what he did was right? I shook my head and slapped his hand away, but he grabbed my hand with fast reflexes. He didn't pull me along with him. He just stood there with his head hung, while he held my hand. Nick, what don't you get? You understand that you have to do anything for your mate, don't you? I flinched. Was he really feeling this way? Nick raised his head and looked at me with tears in his eyes. I didn't know any better. Vampire Deception by Drake Mason and Eli Dweck. It an undocumented changeling and forced to code as a low-level witch. I thought I had to do that, but then I met you, and I felt stronger feelings for you, and only you. I looked at our hands and slipped mine from his grasp. I can probably forgive you, but I won't be with you, I stated while looking back at Nick. His face flashed with hurt and anger. That won't do. Then he ran off, so fast that the leopard would be more jealous of him. I stood there, looking at my hand that he held. I can forgive him, but I won't be with him. Willow, I shook my head. Not now. I see Thalia. I see Thalia ignored me. That flower right in front of you is the angelic herb. I looked ahead of myself and saw what she was talking about. A white flower that gleamed in the little sunlight it received. I walked over to it and swiftly picked it. Then I ran back the way I came, wanting to get to Riley more than anything. Riley's POV. Willow has been out there for a while, searching for that one flower that would help Paige. I was worried, for both of them. I wanted to run outside and search for Willow, help her find the angelic herb, but Aviary said that she needed to face her demons out there, and learn the truth. I didn't know what she meant, but thinking about it over and over again made it sound like Willow was in danger. It will be fine, Aviary stated. She'll come back safely with the flower. I looked at her and narrowed my eyes. You know, something has been itching at the back of my head. You're a witch. So why do you need potions when you can just flick your finger? Aviary smiled. That's true. I don't necessarily need potions. But this will help everything place itself in order. What do you mean? The witch ignored me and looked down at Paige's sleeping form. Chess here. A second later I heard the front door open and slam shut from downstairs, and I heard the running of footsteps coming up the stairs and through the hall. I looked towards the hallway door and saw Willow standing there, holding out a flower while panting. Here the flower, take it. Aviary snapped her fingers and the flower appeared in her hands. Thank you, Willow. Now, Riley, go comfort our Luna. I nodded and gently took Willow's hand in mine. She stared at it with a horrified look, but then she calmed down. Did I scare her? Was she afraid of me? I shook my head and pulled Willow out of her bedroom. Then we walked down the hallway and entered mine. She went over to my bed and lied on top. I smiled and joined her, pulling her close to my chest. You know, she panted, her minty breath fanning my neck as she spoke. It's obvious Paige is going to be staying here with us. I nodded. Of course. I wouldn't want to separate you two. I could feel Willow smile. You know what that means. Right. She gets my room. Which means, it'll have to sleep and stay in your room. I looked down at her as my heart began to hammer against my chest. She was blushing and averting my gaze. Gosh, she was adorable. I kissed her on her forehead. I'm fine with that. I want you as close to me as possible. She snuggled deeper into my chest. Good. I began to rest my eyes, even though Willow kept shifting for some reason. It was like she was trying to get up. That's when I felt it. Sparks engulfed my body as my eyes snapped open. She was staring down at me with a crazy blush on her face. I chuckled. If I was so tired, I'd kiss you back. Her blush got even redder. She swiftly went back to my chest and began to snuggle. You're so adorable, I said while resting my eyes again. And you're so cute, she mumbled. I smiled as I held her closer to me, then fell into a peaceful sleep. The only thing I thought of was the kiss she had given me. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode of the story, please give it a like. And don't forget to subscribe to get notifications for updates.